92% of everything we produce becomes waste within months. Welcome to linear economy.
Wow, Tessa, that's amazing. What are we talking about today?
Well, it's not amazing, but it's a very interesting fact.
Then I would say awe-inspiring or
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
dramatic.
It's quite dramatic.
Yeah, okay.
I wasn't sure if we should start like that, but I thought, it
little
grabs
bit
you,
of a hook,
a little bit of a hook.
So what are we talking about today then?
So we are talking today about the linear versus circular economy.
Okay.
I believe this is one of the most important topics in the sustainability world. So I'm very intrigued to kind of just, get started and talk about this topic.
Right, because you have a bit of an economics background. So I'm not an expert in economics. So maybe you can define to me and to the listeners, like, what is a linear economy?
So a linear economy is very simple. We can just put it into 3 words. It's take, make, and waste. And sadly, this is kind of how our economy is momentarily set up. So that means that we're using a product once and then we throw it away.
Right.
Best example is a plastic utensil. Resources are used to make it. You use it once and it ends in the garbage and on the landfill.
So, I mean, inversely, then can you define to me a circular economy? Like, what does that look like compared?
So a circular economy is where we focus on the importance of reusing material before we throw it away or before we recycle it. So the best way is kind of imagine just the economy being a one giant system of things. And this system of things is limited. And that's sadly our truth because we only have one world. So in this system, we try to utilize everything we have several times before we burn it, put it in a landfill.
So it's kind of like an interconnected system that kind of acts together, but the way our economy is set up is linear, meaning like we're not considering all these other factors that become this web almost.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then what does like waste actually mean in an economic sense? Like we're talking about this system, but then waste in the economic sense, like what does that look like financially then?
So that's a really good question. Economically speaking, we're losing a lot of value, a lot of money when we just throw away things when they're still perfectly usable or we could refurbish them in a certain way. And that's just the biggest part of circularity in economies. We don't want to throw away something that we took a lot of time and money and resources to use. So an example would be here when we buy a phone, phone's actually not a very good example because it's in general quite a bad system because people are being taken advantage of to make our phones.
Okay.
But we have rare earth elements in the phones, exactly. And then we use our phone, I don't know, what is it, 1-2 years? You say use your phone a little bit longer, right?
I do. I'm probably a very unique case.
I like it. Sustainable.
Exactly.
But then, what do you do with your phone when it's broken? When your screen is broken, battery is broken. Nowadays, we can no longer exchange batteries.
Right.
It's very expensive to exchange your screen.
Yeah.
So people just chuck it out.
Yeah.
And it's not really being recycled.
I did hear about that company. Was it a Swedish or a Danish company where they have like a phone where you can kind of take everything apart? You can buy replacement pieces.
Yes. I forgot.
Fairphone?
It's called Fairphone. Yeah,
Okay.
we can put a link below.
Yeah, good idea.
I don't have a phone yet that is a Fairphone, but I think that would be my next purchase because you can take everything apart.
Yeah.
Batteries, cameras, screens. It's kind of how it used to be.
Yeah, true. Like when you had a shitty flip phone like Nokia, you'd drop it, the battery pop right out.
Exactly.
So, no screws needed. But so bringing it back to this this circular cycle. So how would you, in the circular economy, there's a couple of words that people use that are not, I guess, conventional or common knowledge, at least not to me. And we usually use this, like, this triangle I think is quite well known. It's like reduce, reuse, recycle. Mm-hmm. But I know that there's refurbish and remanufacture. So how would you define each of those components?
Okay, so I'll start with reduce. So reduce is just kind of make less waste. So for example, when we order less, there is less demand. That equals it's going to be to less supply because there's no demand to buy those products. So that would be kind of the first way of having less waste in the world. Then we have reuse. So that means just reuse the same thing over again. So we're going to have an example of a door. And when we're done with a door in a certain building, we could just take it out and reuse it in another building. That would be kind of reuse. Then we have repair. That means fix what's broken. So if that same door has a broken handle, we could just add a new handle to it, and ta-da, you have a perfectly good product. Then we have refurbish. So that means clean up, refresh it, maybe even swap some parts out so it's almost good as new again.
And how about remanufacture?
Remanufacture is just kind of rebuild it into a like a new kind of way. So that means if we have the same door, we could, we won't use the entire door. We could just use a bit of the wood to make something new, like a stool, for example. Or I think you had a really good example about a tiling company.
Oh, yeah. So they kind of did like a circular economy business where they would have these fabric tiles, carpet tiles, let's call them, and they would install them in a building. Mm-hmm. You'd buy them from the company. And then eventually, 5, 6, I don't remember what time frame, the company would come back, take them, replace them, and then the ones they replaced it with, the ones that they took away, they would remanufacture them, recycle them. They would kind of produce a new tile into them. Mm-hmm. It was a very good circular system. It also kind of keeps your clients, I think, involved for a longer period of time. It's not a one-time purchase either. So you do have a profit because you have this whole, if one company's in charge of the whole system, the whole circle, like you're kind of getting an income at every level, which I think is super interesting. For the door example, I think maybe a good, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe a remanufacturing would be, I've seen like old barn doors or something like that turn into a table. They basically just put like a glass sheet on top, and then it's done. Actually a really cool table. Mm-hmm. Maybe they sand the paint off a little bit to make it look rustic, but I've seen that. So it's definitely like an economic thing. Like you can definitely profit from it. Yeah,
and it's a great system. I mean, it's also just cheaper to manufacture.
Yeah, exactly. So then how would you rank them? Let's
we actually have one.
See, even I'm forgetting.
So we have one last one that's called, it's recycling. And a lot of people always think that recycling is like the main goal in circular economy. It really isn't. It's kind of the last step we want to do with a product, because recycling is kind of smashing a product. So like once you smash it, you're done with it. Mm-hmm. But the most important thing is that you recycle responsibly and you do a good job. I think that the Nordic countries do a really good job compared to Canada. There's like, I know at our dump, there's like one recycling container, and I was like, okay, I'll just put paper in there. No, you can put everything in there. You can put paper, glass, and I don't know. I don't really trust the system.
I feel like there's a lot of value that people miss out too when they throw out a bunch of things and into one dump, into a landfill, which I think is probably one of the worst ways to take care of garbage is a landfill, where they just throw dirt over it and just forget about it, and someone's going to have to deal with it. Pretend like it's not there. Exactly. Someone's going to have to deal with it. So now that we've defined those, how would you rank reduce, reuse, repair, refurbish, remanufacture, and recycle? Is that kind of the order you would follow?
Yeah, that's exactly the order I would follow. Yeah. Recycle has to be last, because otherwise we can't do anything out of it. But yeah, that's exactly the order that I would go for.
So reduce, of course, if you're not purchasing things, then you also have no waste. Like that's an obvious one. It's not realistic because people need things. Yeah. But that's the obvious one to start with. Yeah.
But while we do need things, I feel like today we're like in a society that's driven by overconsumption. So it's important for people to just kind of look in their house. Okay, I actually do have a working, I don't know, Tupperware. I don't need to buy new Tupperware, or, those kind of little things as well. I love that a lot of people want to become sustainable and then kind of swap out all their like plastic or unsustainable things. But the most sustainable thing is to keep what you have before you start buying new things.
Right. And I think thrifting has actually kind of become more of a trend almost.
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, you see like these thrift stores, Goodwill, all that kind of popping up. And every time I pop in, it's busy. Like it's really busy.
Yeah. I also love Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, fair. Yeah. That's the only reason I have Facebook, I think.
Yeah, same.
So how would you make reuse a financially viable model?
So I would say we can make a financial viable model is once it kind of stops being a headache or like an extra step and it becomes natural. And I think there are like different ways how we could make that happen. One is that the government gets involved and has some policies. I know that's not always your favorite method, but for example, at the moment, or I think that was last year, the EU Parliament adopted a new policy where textile makers are in charge of their textile waste. And that also puts the pressure on the suppliers rather than the consumers or the taxpayers, which I think is really important, because then even the textile makers start to produce less waste, or see how can we use this waste to produce more products rather than it just lands in a landfill. So I think that's one very big incentive. Another incentive is when reused material or material that is already on the market and you don't have to buy becomes cheaper. I think that's one really, really big incentive. At least that one is for me. Like if I see on Facebook I can buy a table for $20 instead, a new table for $200, yeah, I'm going to go for the $20 table. Yeah.
So if you kind of at the manufacturing level already produce a higher quality product that lasts longer, it's definitely cheaper on the consumer, because they don't have to buy a dishwasher every 3-5 years or whatever it is.
That too, yeah, for sure.
It does make it a little bit more expensive on the manufacturer, right? Because they're increasing their quality. However, they are incentivizing and showing their consumers in a transparent way that they're worth it.
Yeah.
And you see lots of companies that do follow that model, build better quality, and they do charge a bigger price tag, but they are very financially viable.
For example, Fjällräven or like Carhartt, their clothing brands, even more, but their price tag is often quite hefty. But they either have like a take back program. So it means like once you're done with the product, you can send it back and they'll somehow reuse it. I even saw that Fjällräven has like a secondhand store kind of. And then Carhartt also has a repair. I think Fjällräven as well has like a repair stage as well. So when something breaks, a zipper breaks, you send it back and they'll repair it for free, send it back again for free. Awesome system, because then you don't have to go out of your way to buy new products or to find a seamstress to repair it for you.
I actually my winter jacket, the zipper broke. It's an Arc'teryx jacket, beautiful down jacket. I bought it I think maybe like 6 years ago, and last year I went in to one of their stores and I just told them what's wrong with this. Like, the zipper's just not working. Like, I'm happy to pay for whatever it is, but are you able to fix it? And they're like, oh my gosh, no worries. Like, leave your jacket here, go to your shopping in the mall, come back, no, like free of charge.
I love this. It also makes you a loyal customer, right? You're now always going to buy your jacket there because you know that's an option.
Big time.
Yeah.
And like you said, like, I don't like government intervention, government policy. Like, I think the best way to incentivize the population is if it comes within.
Yeah.
So what are like some ways that government intervention maybe isn't necessary? Like, how do you incentivize people to do it? Like, I think the way I think about it, maybe this is the same point that you have, is more transparency for the consumer.
For sure.
And I think companies like Patagonia, they're very transparent, like the good and the bad. They do it on their ESG reports. It looks amazing. And it kind of gives you that insight, and you can make a very educated purchase as a consumer. And that might be the best route, in my opinion.
I think it is one of the best routes. The only problem is that greenwashing is really becoming a thing in companies that say they're sustainable, and then customers kind of look at it, think, oh yeah, that's going to work out, but they actually don't going to read their like 20-page ESG report. So there, for example, would be important maybe for the government to make sure that the ESG has to uphold a certain standard so that it actually isn't going to be greenwashing.
Right. So some sort of government intervention is probably necessary.
It's probably necessary, but as you said, like it's probably not always the best, but it for sure is going to give you faster results, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if I think about it, like every Western country, fraud is illegal.
Yeah.
And I guess greenwashing has become a thing because it's not really like it's a very new concept that maybe doesn't fall under the fraud clause. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know specifically. But maybe that needs to be fine-tuned so that fraud still applies to these sorts of attributes. Like if you're lying to your customer, that is fraud. And maybe that's just the level of policy that that should be happening, and that I would probably be more comfortable with than like directly saying, like, oh no, you have to start producing better quality things. I do believe in a free market, and like if your competitor is producing a lower quality and you're producing a better quality, it should naturally turn into your favor. Yeah,
that's true. I also have a really good example of circularity already happening without really people calling it circularity. For example, I'm from Germany, and there we have the Pfandsystem. So that means that every bottle has a certain amount of money it's worth. I know that we have that in Canada too, but it's not as much, and not, I feel like, as like widely used on products. So we use it on plastic, on glass, bottles, but also like containers and things. And so in every supermarket, almost every supermarket, you have a machine where you can put in your bottles, and it's going to count the amount of money you get. Then you get like a little, what's it called? Like a little discount card, and it says how much money you have, and then you go shopping, and then that's going to be reduced from the amount of
your groceries. I like that idea.
And that's really like, I love that because it becomes very natural, and it's also very ingrained in German households. Like we all have like a little bottle container holder, and we go there every week. And even like beer bottles have that too. So when you out partying and you kind of want to do a good deed, you kind of leave your bottle outside of the trash can, so somebody less fortunate can pick it up and take that money to buy themselves some food.
I do think the system is way more refined, at least in Germany, than it is here. I think it's called Mehrwegflaschen, like multiple way. Yeah, multiple bottles. Path bottles.
Yeah.
And I think they do it for all their glass bottles. And when you buy a new case of beer, you see that the bottle is actually like scuffed up. It's cleaned, but you see that it's been used before.
Yeah,
which
like they have a new label, but just the outside is a bit scuffed up. Yeah,
the glass itself is a little bit scuffed up. You can tell it's been used a couple times, which is totally fine. Like I'm a germaphobe, and it doesn't gross me out. Like that's
they wash
not the
it,
problem.
so
Exactly, they wash. Well, I guess you have to trust that they wash it, but that system already in itself is circular, right? And I think here, like I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that the glass that you recycle here, it just gets smelted and then like remanufactured then?
Yeah. But as we said, like that's also great, but like reusing is like on the top of the list, right? And remanufacturing is kind of, I think, the second to the bottom of like what you want to do first.
Yeah.
So I love when you first reuse before you actually put more work and time to it to make something new out of it.
Right.
But still, it's great. It's a good system.
Yeah. There's another like system, I guess, in my branch where I would put my input in is in LCAs. There's this idea called material passports.
Oh yeah.
It's very distinctive for the building sector. Basically, what it does, it's like a shopping list for the ingredients of the building, essentially. So all your raw materials, your screws, your beams, your columns, your steel, your wood, you name it. It's on this passport, and this gets updated throughout the life of the building. Buildings are somewhere usually around like 60 years.
Yeah.
And at the end of that life, you have this report in front of you, or whoever owns the building at that time, or whoever wants to purchase that dilapidated building, and they know exactly what the value they can get out of it. So I think that's a really good system to financially incentivize people from properly, maybe recycling is not the right term, but properly recycling this building, take it apart, and use all these raw materials that are still in great shape. Because steel, it'll last way longer than 60 years.
Yeah, so imagine the amount of value you would lose if that would all just go to a landfill.
Yeah, which it does.
It does, yeah, but that's really sad because, as you said, those screws perfectly usable. You could just use it for another building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, if it is so obvious to us, like what is driving the linear approach? Why don't individuals or corporations use the circular structure?
I think because linears at the moment are default, and it's just so simple.
So why is it default? Like, why is it? Because there's less barriers, it's less complicated. Is that why?
I think it's less complicated. I mean, everybody has a trash can in their house, so it's very easy to just chuck everything in there. And also because our economy is driven by consumption. And as I said, at the moment, we're kind of over-consuming, for sure. I mean, there are also these companies called Shein. Sorry, I don't want to like badmouth anything, but you can buy a lot of good-looking things for very cheap, but they're not going to last long. And I think with also all these trend-setting things, so with Instagram and everything, we can see like, okay, this is a trend. This is what I want to have. So people are going to buy it. But trends move so fast, and then people actually are like, "Oh, I don't want it. I just wanted it for the trend," and then they chuck it out again.
It becomes obsolete.
Yeah, it becomes obsolete, and that's just how at the moment our society is working. And I remember also when I was a kid, and my mom would like patch up my jeans with like these jeans patches. People would look at me weirdly because they're like, "Why don't you just buy new jeans?" It's like, but they work perfectly. You just have a little hole.
Was it those iron-on ones?
Yeah, exactly.
I had those too.
Also with like a funny little, cartoons or something on it. Yeah.
Maybe that's very German. I don't know. So like talking about the barriers, what makes it more difficult to go circular? I've heard these terms like hard and soft barriers. Can you maybe define those for us?
Yeah, so hard barriers are the practical ones. So that's kind of liability, missing documents, storage space, logistic. So that means it's hard to, when you deconstruct a building, who's going to buy your material, how are you going to transport it, where are you going to store it? That's kind of the hard barriers. And then the soft barriers are like the human ones. So the human, like the habit ones. So it's like new is always better, risk aversion, trust, and people being too stretched to try something unfamiliar. So at the moment, a lot of, especially in the building sector, we want to kind of build the buildings very fast. And we just kind of don't have the mind or the space in our head to kind of think about, okay, how material passport, how am I going to implement that, or those kind of things.
So the way I would maybe define it, or the way I understood it, is that hard barriers are usually ones you can like calculate and have a number associated to it, and soft barriers are more like perceptive and like human influence, emotion, a little bit harder to put into a number. Is that probably
that's about right.
Okay, cool. Can you give an example of a barrier you see in Canada and maybe one you see in Germany and maybe how they differ?
For sure. So in Canada, we have some real barriers. I think, for example, we have, when I see that when a building is built, you use a lot of wood, a lot of foam, and everything is also glued together. And that means that you can't really deconstruct it because everything is just together and you can't pull it apart. I would say that's one real big barrier in Canada. And then one barrier in Germany, which I think it's getting better, but we don't really have those material passports. That's one big barrier as well, because people would like to deconstruct a building, but we don't know what's in it. And it's going to take a lot of time to, do it one by one and see what really is in it. So that's one big barrier as well.
So I know that the construction sector has a lot of waste involved to it. So what are the largest contributors or the low-hanging fruit that we can address in financial and construction waste in the building sector?
That's a really good question. So I think one of the lowest hanging fruit is packaging waste, especially on the when we're constructing. We have when we get our wood, everything is packed in plastic. So obviously it doesn't get wet, doesn't rot whatsoever, but it just creates so much waste. So I think really important that we see that we could reduce this kind of waste. I think also another waste is if we by accident have the wrong measurements and we have too much product, and then there are nothing in the contract states that they will take back the product. So we have leftover product, which hopefully is going to be reused in a different construction site, or it's just going to be chucked away. So I think what's important is that we focus on circularity when it's kind of in the upstream. So we first make sure everything is calculated correctly, then that we have in the contract, it states that they will take back product that is not used, and that also products are maybe packaged less. I haven't figured out how we would package it less, but that would be in a perfect world.
I think one strategy that I've seen maybe occurring a little bit more is the first goal. Let's take a normal house, single family house. The first goal is to get it weather tight. So then you can put your materials inside and you don't have to worry about water damage. It does take a second to get to that point, but once you get to that point, like a lot of stresses go away, I think, for a lot of people, because your materials are no longer at risk of being damaged. Yeah. So one thing that I've seen is people doing like big canopies or big tarps or big like tents where they can like store all their materials underneath so it doesn't get wet from rain. I think that might be a good solution, because then sure you have a tarp or a tent or something like that, but that's a reusable product, right? That you can constantly use to cover your what was packaged materials. So I think that's one thing that I've seen.
Have you seen that one in Canada or more in Germany?
Actually, China.
Oh, okay.
I've seen China do like these amazing like blow up bubbles, like almost like these like inflatable soccer domes that they would do over top of a work site, and then it's basically weather tight before they even start construction.
Smart. Because here in Canada, like I see like those wooden buildings that are not done yet, don't have a roof on the top yet, and then it rains, and I'm like, that can't be good.
No, it can't be good. They get so wet. Exactly. So what do you believe are small changes that we might be able to do to unlock the reuse as a vessel of circularity?
So I think we have to start simple. Everybody just pick a product, pick a door, pick a light, and make sure that it's not everything is put in with screws and not with glue, and that we can take it apart. And either we just use the product in a whole, or we make sure that there is a take back program or just something we're going to do with that product. Make sure that that already is in your contract, or that is already in your project just sheet, that you want to do something with those leftover products.
Okay, so that kind of like gives me the answer. Like when we take the best parts of Europe and the best parts of Canada in the building sector,
Put it together,
and it actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, awesome. So essentially what I've learned is that the linear economy is a one track, one direction. There's lots of room for opportunity, and it exists today in basically every sector because it's a little bit easier and there's less barriers. But the circular economy seems to be a better model, and it actually does allow for more profit opportunities where you can become the business that kind of acts on every single one of those levels, which actually increases your time with your client for a way longer time. And you have this reoccurring relationship that you build. And I think everyone in business knows a reoccurring relationship is the best relationship for profit.
Yeah, for sure. It's the same thing that we talked about last week, is just think long term. And I think having a circular economy is thinking long term, see what is best for the people, for the planet, for your profit. We have the three pillars again. There you go. And I would like to ask each of our listeners to see if they can pick one of the R's and implement it today, and just see how easy it is. And maybe you can keep doing it.
Yeah, think long term.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you found value in today's conversation, whether it was our discussion, our guest insights, or the topics we explored, we genuinely appreciate your support in helping us reach others in the industry. Subscribing and sharing episodes help us connect with more individuals who are passionate about sustainable building practices.
If you'd like to continue the conversation or share your thoughts with the Future Framers podcast community, you can reach us through the contact information in the show notes. Your support helps us continue bringing you meaningful conversations with industry leaders and experts. Thank you for investing your time with us, and we will see you in the next episode.